Every night when the city slept, a man walked into a glass tower to clean what others left behind. He was invisible to everyone except one woman. But one night she looked up, and what she said changed both their lives forever. This story isn't just about work. It's about love, respect, and the moment two worlds finally saw each other. Stay till the end and subscribe for more. When the city went quiet, when the traffic lights blinked for no one, and the offices turned dark, he arrived. A man most people never noticed, yet he noticed everything. His name was Malik Carter. Every night, he walked into the tall glass building downtown, carrying his old cleaning bag and a small portable radio that hummed softly with gospel tunes. To the world, he was a janitor, but in his heart, he was more, a dreamer, a believer, a man who carried pride in every sweep of his broom. The elevator mirrors reflected his tired eyes. He didn't mind. Each reflection reminded him of why he worked so hard, his mother's medicine, his little sister's school fee, and his promise to himself that one day he'd build something of his own. He started from the 10th floor and worked upward, humming quietly as his mop slid across the polished floors. But there was one place he always saved for last, the 28th floor corner office. That office belonged to Samantha Reed, one of the company's youngest marketing directors. Everyone in the building knew her name. Elegant, intelligent, always in control. She stayed late almost every night, chasing perfection, chasing success. At first, she barely noticed Malik. He'd enter silently, nod politely, and start cleaning while she typed furiously, her eyes glued to the screen. He never spoke unless she did, professional, respectful, invisible. But one night changed everything. That night, the clock had passed 11. The office lights glowed faintly against the glass windows. Malik was cleaning near her desk when he heard her sigh, a long, weary sound that seemed to carry more than just exhaustion. She looked up and said quietly, without even thinking, "Do you ever get tired of doing this every night?" Her words floated in the air, uncertain, part curiosity, part loneliness. Malik froze, caught off guard. Then he smiled slightly. "Sometimes," he said. "But tired isn't the same as ungrateful." Samantha blinked. "What do you mean?" He placed his mop aside and looked at the glowing skyline. "Some people work because they have to. I work because someone out there depends on me. That makes it easier to keep going." For a second, she forgot the title on her desk. She just stared at him, this quiet man with calloused hands and gentle eyes, speaking like he carried wisdom in his scars. Something in his words hit her heart. She had all the comfort in the world, yet she felt empty. He had almost nothing, but his eyes held peace. Malik picked up his mop and said softly, "Good night, ma'am." As he walked away, Samantha's eyes followed him. For the first time, she didn't see a janitor. She saw a man who worked in silence, but lived with purpose. That night, when Malik left, she couldn't focus anymore. She just sat there, looking at the reflection of the city lights on the glass, and whispered to herself, "Not everyone who works in the dark is lost. Some are just waiting to be seen." The next few nights were different. Samantha tried to focus on her reports, but her mind often drifted toward that janitor with the calm voice and the steady hands. She'd never met anyone like Malik before, someone who spoke so little, yet said so much. Every sentence of his carried a kind of quiet strength she hadn't felt in years. The following Monday night, as she typed, she noticed the faint reflection of Malik in the glass wall behind her, headphones on, humming softly as he cleaned the floor. She smiled without meaning to. Then she did something unusual. She turned and asked, "What do you listen to every night?" Malik paused, removing one earbud. "Old songs," he said with a smile, "the kind that remind me life's still beautiful. Even when it's not easy." She chuckled softly. "I don't think I've ever had time to listen to something beautiful in months." Malik looked at her and said simply, "Maybe that's the problem, ma'am. Sometimes success gets too loud for peace to speak." Those words stopped her fingers mid-type. She didn't respond, but her heart did. That night after he left, she replayed his words over and over. For years she had been running from one goal to another, chasing perfection, missing the small things that made life real. The next night she came prepared. When Malik entered, she called out, "Mr. Malik, would you like some coffee?" He froze at the sound of his name. No one ever called him that at work. He looked at her, surprised. I don't want to bother you, ma'am." "You're not," she said gently. "It's just coffee." And so, for the first time, the janitor sat in the office he'd only ever cleaned. Steam rose from their mugs as the night stretched on. They talked not about business or deadlines, but about life, childhood dreams, music, and faith. Samantha learned that Malik once studied mechanical engineering but had to leave college when his mother fell ill. He never complained. He simply started working nights to keep the house running. "Don't you ever feel angry?" she asked softly. Malik smiled. "I used to. But I realized anger never builds. It only burns. So I learned to build, even with ashes." Those words pierced her heart. Samantha had everything Malik didn't: status, wealth, freedom. Yet he spoke like the richest man alive. When the clock struck 1, Malik stood up. "I should let you rest," he said. Samantha hesitated before replying. Maybe peace doesn't come from resting. "Malik, maybe it comes from meeting people who remind you why life is worth living." He paused at the doorway, looked back once, and smiled. That smile stayed in her mind long after he was gone. From that night, something unspoken grew between them. A quiet understanding that didn't need words. Every night, as the building emptied, two souls from completely different worlds met in the glow of office lights, one chasing success, the other holding on to hope. They didn't know where it was leading. All they knew was, somehow the nights didn't feel lonely anymore. The late nights continued. But now they weren't filled with silence. They were filled with conversations, laughter, and something neither of them dared to name. Samantha began leaving small things on her desk when she knew Malik would come by: an extra coffee cup, a pastry, or sometimes a note that simply said, "Thank you for what you do." He never said much about them, but she always found the cups cleaned and the notes neatly folded by the trash bin the next day. It was their silent exchange of gratitude, unspoken but deeply understood. One night, while Malik wiped the windows, Samantha stood beside him, looking out at the glittering city. "Do you ever wonder," she said softly, "what it would feel like to start over? No pressure, no competition, no expectations, just peace." Malik smiled faintly without turning. "Every night," he said. "But then I realize maybe peace isn't somewhere else. Maybe it's something we carry or lose inside us." She stared at him, her heart caught between admiration and confusion. How could a man who had faced so many struggles sound freer than her, someone who had everything? Her voice trembled slightly. "You talk like someone who's already found what the rest of us are still chasing." Malik chuckled quietly. "Maybe I just stopped running." That moment felt like time itself had paused. The hum of the air conditioner, the soft city lights, even the ticking clock, all faded into the stillness between them. Then Samantha whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe that's what I need to learn." Over the next few days, she began to see life differently. She greeted the staff at the front desk, shared lunch with her assistant, even left the office early once to visit her old neighborhood park. Malik's presence had somehow awakened something in her, a reminder that kindness didn't make you weak, and humility didn't make you small. But with every passing night, the air between them grew heavier, warmer, more complicated. Samantha was beginning to realize something she didn't want to admit. It wasn't just admiration anymore. It was something deeper, something that scared her, and she wasn't the only one who felt it. One evening, as Malik packed his things, Samantha stopped him by the door. Her voice was soft, but her eyes said everything. "Malik, do you ever think some people are meant to meet no matter how different their worlds are?" He froze, unsure what to say. His hands tightened around the cleaning bag. "Maybe," he said after a long pause. "But sometimes those worlds aren't ready for each other." Their eyes met, and silence filled the space between them like a fragile secret. Then Samantha took a breath and said quietly, "Maybe it's not the world that has to be ready. Maybe it's us." For a moment neither moved. The fluorescent lights flickered softly, and the city wind whispered against the glass. It was the kind of silence that spoke louder than words. Before leaving, Malik said gently, "Be careful, Miss Reed. The higher the floor, the stronger the wind." She smiled sadly. "And sometimes the higher the floor, the lonelier it gets." That night, as he walked out of the building, Malik looked up at the 28th floor's glowing window. Behind that glass, a woman sat with her hand over her heart, wondering how a man with dust on his hands had managed to touch her soul. The city's nights no longer felt lonely. For weeks, Samantha and Malik had built a quiet friendship under the hum of office lights, a friendship stitched with truth, respect, and something even more fragile, hope. But good things rarely stay unnoticed. It started with whispers. One night, as Malik entered the building, 2 employees leaving the elevator gave him a strange look. "Isn't that the janitor Miss Reed keeps talking to?" One murmured. "Yeah," the other replied. "Weird, right?" Malik ignored it. He'd faced worse in life. But he didn't realize those whispers were only the beginning of a storm. Inside the office, Samantha sat at her desk, her phone glowing with a message from her colleague. "You might want to be careful. Sam, people are talking," she sighed heavily, staring at the city beyond her glass walls. For the first time in years, she didn't feel proud of her success. She felt trapped between what the world expected and what her heart had quietly chosen. That night, Malik entered her office and immediately sensed something was off. "You look tired," he said gently. She smiled weakly. "I've been reading opinions all day. Funny thing about people, they never stay quiet about someone else's life." Malik lowered his eyes. "They saw us talking?" "They saw you existing," she said softly. And that was enough. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence like distant thunder. Then Samantha whispered, "Do you ever get tired of being judged for what people see, without ever knowing who you really are?" Malik looked up, his voice calm but firm. "Every day. But I stopped living for their sight a long time ago. They can't see what's inside people, Miss Reed. They only see reflections." Her throat tightened. His words always hit where it hurt most. "But what if I care what they think?" she asked. He looked at her with quiet compassion. "Then you'll never hear what your heart's trying to say." Tears welled in her eyes. For years, she'd lived for approval, bosses, clients, society. And now, for the first time, someone who owned nothing made her feel seen, heard, and alive. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Malik, what if I told you that your words have changed me? That I don't see this job or this building or even my life the same way anymore?" He took a step back, unsure if she was saying what he feared and hoped. "Miss Reed—" "Call me Samantha," she interrupted softly. For the first time, their names felt equal in the air, Malik and Samantha. But before he could answer, the door burst open. It was Mr. Collins, her senior manager. "Sam, we need to talk," he said sharply, eyes darting between them. The tension in his tone was enough to slice through the room. Malik quickly stepped aside, lowering his gaze. Samantha tried to compose herself. "Mr. Carter," Collins said coldly, "I believe your shift is over. Leave? Now." Malik nodded quietly and walked out, his steps heavy, his heart heavier. As the elevator doors closed behind him, Samantha stood frozen. Collins turned to her. "Sam, you know this doesn't look good. You've got a reputation here. Don't ruin it over." "Sympathy, sympathy?" she repeated, her voice shaking. "You think that's what this is?" Collins sighed. "You're an executive. He's a janitor. Let's not make things complicated." But it already was. That night, as the building lights dimmed, Samantha sat alone in her office, tears rolling silently down her face. Downstairs, Malik stood outside in the cold, staring up at the 28th floor window that glowed faintly through the mist. He whispered softly to himself, "Maybe some stars aren't meant to shine together, but they still light the same sky." For the next few nights, the 28th floor stayed silent. No laughter, no coffee mugs, just the cold hum of computers left on standby, like memories waiting for someone to come back. Samantha had been asked to take some time off after the whispers spread through the company. Her boss said it was to cool things down, but she knew what it meant. The board didn't like seeing someone from her position getting too personal with the janitorial staff. The same building that once made her feel powerful now made her feel small. At home, she sat by her window, watching the city lights blur through tears. She thought about Malik, the man who had no title, no office, no fancy degree, yet somehow carried more peace than anyone she'd ever known. She whispered to herself, "How can someone have so little, yet make me feel so much. Meanwhile, Malik had quietly asked for a transfer to another building. He didn't want to cause trouble. He thought leaving was the right thing to do. But every night in the new office, surrounded by strangers in silence, he felt emptier. The coffee didn't taste the same. The city didn't shine the same. He realized it wasn't the building he missed, it was her. Still, he told himself, sometimes distance is the price of dignity. Weeks passed. One evening, as Samantha walked through the park near her apartment, she noticed a group of volunteers cleaning the grounds, picking up litter, planting flowers, repainting benches. And among them, she saw him. Malik. He wore the same gentle smile, the same steady eyes. But something about him looked stronger, like he had accepted the storm and found peace in it. Samantha froze. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Then Malik noticed her and walked over, wiping paint from his hands. "Miss Reed," he began, then stopped. "Samantha," she smiled faintly. "So, you started cleaning the world now, too?" He laughed softly. "Guess I couldn't stop at one building." For a few moments, they stood in silence. Then she said quietly, "They made me step down. Said I crossed a line." Malik nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she said. "For the first time in years, I'm not chasing anyone's approval. You told me once, peace isn't somewhere else. It's something we carry. I finally understand that." He looked at her with quiet pride. "You found your peace." She shook her head gently. "No, Malik, you showed me how to find it." She handed him a small paper bag. Inside was a folded business card. He opened it and read aloud, "Reed and Carter Cleaning Services. Coming soon." Malik's eyes widened. "What is this?" Samantha smiled. "A new start. You said you dreamed of opening your own company. Let's build it together. Clean offices, hearts, and maybe lives." For a long time Malik didn't speak. Then his eyes glistened. "People will talk again," he whispered. "Let them," she said. "Maybe this time they'll talk about how two people built something beautiful out of what others tried to break." The evening sun fell behind them as they stood side by side, two souls who had walked through judgment, lost and silence, only to find hope on the other side. For once, Samantha didn't care what the city thought. For once, Malik didn't feel invisible. And for the first time, both of them smiled, not because life was perfect, but because it was real. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of their tiny new office space. It wasn't a skyscraper. It wasn't polished marble floors or endless glass panels. But it was theirs. Every scratch on the wall, every scuff on the floor, every stack of boxes waiting to be unpacked whispered a promise. A fresh start built together. Samantha ran her hand across the counter, taking in the smell of paint and paper and the faint aroma of coffee. It felt alive, vibrant, real. Malik emerged from the back, a stack of folders in his hands. His uniform was replaced by a crisp shirt and jeans, a man who had stepped out of invisibility and into possibility. He caught Samantha's gaze and smiled. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," she replied, her voice steady, full of certainty she hadn't known existed months ago. They had spent the previous weeks planning, strategizing, and building a foundation for Reed and Jefferson Community Services. Their goal wasn't to compete with corporate giants or chase prestige. Their mission was simple: help people build communities and do work that mattered. Their first client arrived, a small bakery struggling to survive rising rents and unexpected expenses. The owner, an older woman with flour-dusted hands, looked nervous as Samantha shook her hand firmly. "Don't worry," Samantha said softly. "We'll make sure your business can keep thriving. You don't have to do this alone anymore." Malik watched from the side, offering advice on bookkeeping, marketing, and strategic growth. Together they transformed not just the business, but the confidence of the owner. By mid-afternoon, word had spread. Neighbors, small business owners, and volunteers began trickling in, seeking advice, guidance, or simply encouragement. They didn't come for the prestige. They came for heart. Watching Malik speak to a group of young entrepreneurs, Samantha realized how far they had come. The man who once swept floors after everyone else had left now inspired others with his vision, his integrity, his unwavering commitment to lift people up. She approached him quietly. "Look at you," she said. He glanced at her, eyes softening. "Look at us," he corrected. She smiled, understanding the truth behind the words. They weren't just partners in business. They were partners in life. As the day drew to a close, they stood outside the office, watching the city lights flicker on, one by one. The streets below no longer felt like barriers. They felt like paths. Paths to growth, to love, to change. Malik reached for Samantha's hand. "You know, I used to think being invisible was safe. No expectations, no judgment. But it was lonely. You changed that for me." She squeezed his hand gently. "And you changed me. You showed me that love isn't about convenience or approval. It's about courage, honesty, and showing up for each other, even when it's hard." For a long moment they simply held hands, feeling the city hum around them. The challenges hadn't disappeared. People would still judge. Obstacles would still arise. But they had each other, and now they had a purpose bigger than themselves. Malik turned to her, eyes serious. "So, what's next?" Samantha smiled, a spark of excitement in her eyes. "Next, we build, we grow. We help people who need it the most. And we do it together. Every step, every setback, every victory, together." He nodded. "Together." And in that quiet Seattle evening, two different worlds had finally found a bridge, a life built not on privilege, fear, or expectation, but on love, respect, and the courage to fight for what truly matters. From the man who cleaned after everyone else, and the woman who once measured success by the approval of others, rose a partnership that changed lives. They had discovered the truth. The greatest wealth isn't in titles, paychecks, or recognition. The greatest wealth is in purpose, in partnership, and in the people whose lives you touch along the way. As the screen of life fades to black, one thing is certain. Some love stories don't just survive obstacles, they transform worlds. And for Samantha and Malik, the journey had only just begun. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you that love and purpose can conquer even the toughest obstacles, hit subscribe and join us for more stories that change the way you see the world.